Thanks for joining me today. We are going to go through part 1 of a 3-part series into fractured card making for Christmas. Thanks for joining me today. This is Jen Lee with Jentastic Journey. Today we have these fractured dies, and I'm going to show you first how I pick the paper. So I pick paper pads because they have similar colors in them, or in some cases similar designs. And then sometimes I choose all vintage colors or all fun colors or all geometric shapes, but they have to be in the same kind of color family typically, or it'll look a little bit weird. And then be sure to add some shimmer, glimmer, and shine in by using some mirrored cardstock or glimmer cardstock or sequensy looking cardstock, whatever you have. Once you have all your paper figured out, then we're going to put our die onto the first of the, so I picked 3 in each category. So 3, these are vintage ones for my first card, or first 3 cards. So when you have 3 that you cut out, then you have 3 dies because you're going to mix and match the 3 different ones. And here you can see I'm going to use some press and seal, which is my go-to in my craft room. And that way all of my pieces will stay together because these cards have very specific designs. So you don't want to really lose that pattern that's going on with them. And so for my second one, it has pattern as well, but it's not as different as the one before. But again, I'm going to use my press and seal when I get it cut out so that we can keep it all together. And so I just put the press and seal, the sticky part, on the back, and then I press it out, and that way it stays all together. And if a couple pieces fall out, just put them back where they belong. And then this is my third of the vintage one, and I really like these cards. I wasn't sure I was going to like this one, but it ends up being a really strong favorite. And you'll see, I think part 3 probably is my favorite cards, but these are certainly beautiful. And then I'm just going to take a card base and use my bone folder just to make a nice crease, and then we're going to start to assemble the cards. And so each of these has kind of what I would call a base. So it's in the outline piece, and I'm going to keep all the smaller little inside pieces on my press and seal. So I just want that outline piece, and this is not an easy task. Maybe if I hadn't used the press and seal, but then I don't know where I'd be with all my little inside pieces. So this was the best way I saw of doing it, and I'll get it off here. And then what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to glue, I chose to glue the bottom or this outline piece onto my cardstock. And that way that will be flush to the paper. And then I'll choose to put foam tape on all of those little insert pieces. And you certainly don't have to do that. If you don't want a lot of dimension in your card, then, just glue it all because it looks just beautiful that way as well. I was looking for a little dimension, and here you see I put glue just on the bottom of the outline piece. And that way I'm just able to manage it a little bit better. So I'm going to push that down on the bottom half, and then I'll flip over that top piece and I'll glue the rest of it. So that's just a little thing that I do. If you're more comfortable plopping it all down, go for it. I'm just not that coordinated. We get that all nice and pressed down, and then we'll pull in those other 2 pattern papers that are already pre-cut out, and we'll get it all assembled. What I did here is I took a piece of scrap, and I'm going to put this on the back of the biggest piece that goes into this little puzzle or a fractured card. And that's just so I could show you there's different ways to give dimension to your card. You can just pop it up onto some scrap if you don't have a lot of foam tape, and it's a good way to save a little bit because it's expensive to make cards. So here, that's what I'm going to do on this card. And then I use just a block to make sure it stays nice and glued down. So then this is one of the other pieces, and I'm going to pull out the first, which is the V of this, and I'm going to use some foam tape to pop that up. And what is going to happen here is I chose to put foam tape all over first, and then I'll start to assemble the card. What I'm going to do here is you're going to take those 2 other patterned papers that have already been die cut out, and you're going to go every other, and we'll recreate the puzzle. So here you see that I'm using the kind of orangey yellow piece, and then I'll need to put some of the green pieces in between. So it's just every other, and it's pretty simple. And again, I've already got the foam tape down there, so I'm just pulling off the backing and then pushing it down, and it's just that simple. So once you get this started, it's not as bad as it starts out being, but you just need to put the puzzle back together. And the reason, again, why I use this press and seal is because you want that pattern to continue that the pattern paper shows. You don't want it to be all willy-nilly individually in different scenes, all in different parts. At least, if you want it to be kind of perfect. If you don't care, then, don't sweat it and just let all the pieces kind of flop around and, whatever works for you. And then here I'm just using some of the scraps to make the inside coordinate with the outside. And then for the second card, I decided to use an off-white card base. And that's just because I thought it matched better with the big outline piece. And so I'm going to use this kind of orangier version outline for this card. And so we'll get that glued down as well. And then like I did with the other card, I'm going to put down some of the foam. And I'm going to cut a lot of this out, but you'll see for this middle piece, I decided to use some thicker foam, at least wider foam, I should say. And that way, it's just easier than using the scrap, but I had the scrap before, so might as well use it. And we'll put that in the center there. So that's popped up. Hard to see in the video, but it is. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll start to do every other with this green vintage, and then the red vintage is above it. And we won't be putting any of the orange in there because the orange is the outline piece. And I'm cutting out lots of this because we've already seen one of these, so I don't want to bore you with all the details, but you get the general idea. It's every other, and then here I go to that red piece and we'll put all that together. Then we'll put those little teeny tiny edge pieces. I just put those on with some glue. I didn't pop those up onto any foam because they were just hard to deal with anyway. And then I realized that I put this on the wrong side of the card. And if you ever do that, you just cut it off and then attach it to another card base. It is not the end of the world. I used to lose my mind over it. Luckily I haven't put anything on the inside of the card, but still, it's not the end of the world. And you'll see I use that other half of the card base for my last card. And so this one's going to be the green, and again I'll glue it down and I'll do the exact same process, and we'll put a little bit of foam tape and keep moving along. The nice thing about this last one is you just have basically the pieces that are left, so it's not difficult to figure out. We'll put some foam tape down again and then put these last few pieces on here, and this will be our final card. I like this one a lot because of the blue, and then you could really see that orange and the more redder piece. I thought that was really pretty. And then here we go, putting on those little corner pieces, and then we're done with this card as well, as far as the outside anyway. Okay, so here are my 3 cards. Let's put some sentiments on these. First I have to pop the 2 that I'm going to go onto some card bases because they're only on card fronts because I had to cut the one off. And we'll get those on there and see, problem solved. No need to sweat it if you happen to have your card turned around the wrong way. In most cases, just cut it off and go from there. And I just love the way that looks. And I think with card making, that's one of the best things we can do is always do the inside and the outside. So here I'm going to pick some sentiments. I have some that I've stamped, and then I use a vintage photo often when I have vintage looking paper like this. And this I actually stamped on a white piece of paper, so it's definitely too stark with the off-white cardstock that I used for the background. So I'll just give it a little bit of vintage photo distress oxide, and that will look perfect. And I end up putting that one on the far left card. Then I'll pick another sentiment, another 2 sentiments, and we'll do the same thing because I think these all look better when they're a little vintagey looking. And then we'll decorate around that because I think if you can add some embellishments, that's great too. Unfortunately, I cut that out of, I think my camera ran out of battery, and so you don't see that, but I'm going to show you some close-ups so you can see what I did here. I put a piece of holly on there and just glued that to it, and I made a cute little envelope with that. This one I just left the Merry Christmas, and I did put it on some red in the background, and then here I didn't put anything additional there either. Just thought those looked really pretty like that. I hope you enjoyed these videos. Make sure you stay for part 2 and part 3. Lots of different card designs. Thanks for joining me today on this Jentastic journey. If you would, please like and subscribe. I will see you in the next video.